I want you to think about every tomato plant you've ever lost. Every batch that got wiped out by blight. Every fruit that shriveled up, rotted on the vine, or just never reached its full potential no matter how much you watered, fed, or cared for it. Now imagine finding out, right now, that there was something you could have done. Something inexpensive. Something backed by actual scientific research from universities in the United States, Poland, and across Europe. Something that could have oxygenated your soil, shielded your plants from fungal disease, improved the nutritional quality of your fruit, and even extended how long your harvest stays fresh after picking. And it was hydrogen peroxide. A compound so simple, so accessible, that it's sold in every pharmacy and grocery store for under $2. If that stings a little, good. Because that feeling? That's exactly why you need to watch every single second of this video. So that next season, you won't have that regret again. Welcome to Evergreen Garden Life. If you are new here, please take a second right now to like this video, share it with a fellow gardener, and hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below telling me what time you are watching this and where you are tuning in from, whether that's the United States, the United Kingdom, Europe, or anywhere else in the world. And please, turn on that notification bell right now so you never miss out on information like this. Because trust me, the things we talk about on this channel are exactly the kind of knowledge that transforms struggling gardens into truly thriving ones. Now let's get into it. So let's start from the very beginning, because before we talk about what hydrogen peroxide does to your tomatoes, you need to understand what it actually is. Not from a medicine cabinet perspective, but from a garden science perspective. Hydrogen peroxide, or H2O2 as scientists call it, is essentially water with one extra oxygen molecule attached to it. And that one extra molecule? It changes everything. When hydrogen peroxide breaks down, whether in your soil, on your plant's leaves, or around its roots, it releases that extra oxygen and turns back into plain water. No toxic. No harmful chemicals left behind. Just oxygen and water. That's it. And that simplicity is exactly what makes it so powerful in a garden setting. Plants love oxygen. Roots need oxygen. Soil microbes thrive on oxygen. So when you introduce hydrogen peroxide into your garden in the right way and at the right concentration, you are essentially giving your entire growing environment a breath of fresh air, literally. And that breath of fresh air triggers a chain of events inside your tomato garden that most people have never even heard of. Now here is where things start to get really interesting. And this is the part that most gardening videos completely skip over. Hydrogen peroxide is not just something humans invented in a laboratory. Plants actually produce it naturally inside their own cells as part of their internal defense and communication system. Researchers across Europe and North America have confirmed that at low concentrations, H2O2 functions as a signaling molecule inside plant tissue, meaning the plant uses it to communicate internally, to trigger defense responses, and to regulate its own growth and development. So when you apply it externally in diluted form, you are essentially speaking the plant's own language. You are working with the plant's biology, not against it. You are amplifying something the plant already does naturally. And for tomatoes specifically, this internal relationship between the plant and hydrogen peroxide runs incredibly deep. Which is exactly why the results that gardeners and researchers across the world have documented are so remarkable. Keep that foundation in mind as we go through each benefit, because everything connects back to it. The first thing hydrogen peroxide does that most gardeners never think about happens completely underground, and it starts the moment it touches your soil. When you water your tomato plants with a properly diluted hydrogen peroxide solution, that extra oxygen molecule gets released directly into the root zone. And what that does is increase the oxygen availability in the soil around your roots almost immediately. Now why does that matter so much? Because tomato roots, like all plant roots, need oxygen to function properly. Compacted soil, overwatering, and poor drainage all reduce oxygen levels underground. And when roots are oxygen-starved, they become weak, they become vulnerable to rot, and the entire plant above ground starts to suffer visibly. You'll see yellowing leaves, slow growth, and fruits that never quite reach their full size or flavor. But when the root zone is properly oxygenated, roots grow stronger, they spread deeper, and they become dramatically more efficient at pulling in the water and nutrients your tomatoes need to produce abundantly. This is the foundation of everything. And it is one that almost every gardener is unknowingly neglecting season after season. And while we're talking about what happens underground, let's talk about something that happens even before the plant exists at all. The seed stage. This is number 2 on our list, and honestly, it might be the single most underused application of hydrogen peroxide in home gardening today. Research published through the United States Department of Agriculture found that seeds soaked in hydrogen peroxide solution before planting showed germination improvements of over 70% compared to seeds soaked in plain water. 70%. Think about what that means for your tomato seeds sitting in a paper envelope on your shelf right now. A brief pre-soak in a diluted hydrogen peroxide solution softens the seed coat, delivers oxygen directly to the embryo inside, and essentially wakes the seed up faster and more efficiently than water alone ever could. Gardeners across the UK and the United States who have adopted this simple pre-planting step consistently report noticeably faster sprouting times and stronger, more vigorous seedlings right from the very start. And a stronger seedling means a stronger plant, which ultimately means a more productive and more resilient harvest when it matters most. Now we move above ground, and this is where things escalate very quickly. Because one of the most devastating things that can happen to a tomato garden, whether you're growing in a backyard in Texas, a raised bed in rural England, or a greenhouse in continental Europe, is fungal disease. Early blight, late blight, powdery mildew, leaf spot. These are the silent killers that can sweep through an entire tomato crop before most gardeners even realize something is wrong. You wake up one morning, and the leaves are spotted. A week later the plant looks like it's collapsing. And by the time you go looking for a solution, the damage is already done. Here is what the research actually shows about hydrogen peroxide and fungal disease. A scientific study examining powdery mildew on greenhouse-grown cucumbers, a crop that behaves very similarly to tomatoes under disease pressure, found that hydrogen peroxide spray solutions reduced infection rates from 90% all the way down to 12%. From 90 to 12. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a near-complete reversal of the disease outcome. And the critical finding in that study was that the treatment worked best as prevention, applied before the disease ever took hold. This is the mindset shift that separates good gardeners from truly great ones. Instead of reacting to disease after it has already destroyed your plants, you use hydrogen peroxide proactively, early in the season, consistently, to create a growing environment where fungal pathogens simply cannot get a foothold in the first place. And it doesn't stop at fungal disease. Research published through the National Center for Biotechnology Information confirmed that hydrogen peroxide also demonstrates direct antibacterial activity against some of the most destructive bacterial pathogens that target tomatoes, including bacterial wilt, which is caused by a microorganism called Ralstonia solanacearum. This is a disease that travels silently through the soil, enters through the roots, and can kill an entire tomato plant from the inside out within days of infection. There is almost nothing more heartbreaking in a garden than watching a plant you've tended for weeks suddenly collapse with no warning. The same research confirmed that hydrogen peroxide induced measurable resistance against anthracnose in cucumbers as well, again pointing to its broader role as a disease resistance activator across multiple fruit-bearing garden crops. What this means practically for you as a gardener is that hydrogen peroxide doesn't just kill pathogens on contact. It actually activates the plant's own immune response, making it fundamentally more capable of defending itself long after the application has dried and the bottle is back on your shelf. Now, if you are still watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, I want you to really sit with that for a second. The seed soaking technique, the root oxygenation method, the fungal and bacterial disease prevention strategy. This is the kind of knowledge that serious gardeners spend years trying to piece together through trial and error, through failed seasons, through lost harvests. And you are getting it right here, right now, completely free. If you leave this video without subscribing to Evergreen Garden Life, there is a very real chance the algorithm never brings you back here again. And the next time your tomato plants struggle, the next time disease takes your crop, the next time your seeds sit in the soil and barely sprout, you will remember this exact moment. And you will wish you had simply pressed that button. So please, do yourself and your garden a real favor. subscribe right now. Turn on those notifications. Because what is coming in the next few minutes goes even deeper. Let's talk about something that virtually no gardening channel ever covers, and it is arguably one of the most important things on this entire list. Hydrogen peroxide doesn't just help your tomatoes survive. It actually changes the nutritional quality of the fruit itself from the inside out. Research conducted in southeastern Poland and published in a peer-reviewed sustainability journal examined the effects of hydrogen peroxide spraying on tomato plants throughout an entire growing season. What they measured at harvest time was genuinely remarkable. The treated tomatoes showed measurable and significant differences in ascorbic acid content, that is vitamin C, total polyphenol content, and overall antioxidant potential compared to plants that received no hydrogen peroxide treatment at all. Let that sink in for a moment. The same variety of tomato, grown in the same soil, receiving the same water and sunlight, but the ones treated with hydrogen peroxide produced fruit that was measurably more nutritious at harvest. In a world where millions of people across America and Europe are growing their own food specifically because they want to eat cleaner and healthier, this single finding completely changes the conversation about what we apply to our plants and why we do it. And here is something that builds directly and powerfully on that point. Research has also confirmed that hydrogen peroxide plays an active role in the fruit ripening process itself at a molecular level. Scientists studying tomato ripening specifically found that H2O2 acts as a biochemical signal that directly influences how and when a tomato moves through its ripening stages, affecting the very proteins and enzymes responsible for color development, texture, and flavor. What this means practically is that managed, appropriately diluted applications at the right growth stages can support more even, more consistent ripening across your entire plant. Fewer green shoulders. Fewer fruits that ripen unevenly and waste your time and effort. A more synchronized and manageable harvest overall. For gardeners growing large quantities of tomatoes for preserving, canning, sauce making, or selling at farmers markets across the United States and Europe, this level of consistency is genuinely and practically game-changing in ways that go far beyond what any standard fertilizer can offer. Now we need to talk about the stress factor, because this is something every single gardener deals with, but very few understand at a biochemical level. Heat waves in the American South. Unexpected cold snaps in the UK. Drought conditions across continental Europe. Tomato plants under environmental stress slow down, drop flowers, produce smaller fruit, and sometimes collapse entirely. But here is what researchers have found specifically about hydrogen peroxide and stress tolerance in garden crops. Studies confirmed that exogenous application of H2O2, meaning applying it from outside the plant, activates multiple internal signaling pathways that help the plant manage heat stress, drought stress, and even heavy metal stress in contaminated soils. Under heat stress specifically, hydrogen peroxide treatment was shown to increase the activity of the plant's own enzymatic antioxidant systems, essentially arming the plant's internal defense mechanisms before the stress event even peaks. For tomato growers dealing with unpredictable summer weather, this stress buffering effect alone makes hydrogen peroxide one of the most valuable and underappreciated tools available anywhere at any price. Now let's move to something that happens after the harvest. And this is the section that most people would never in a million years connect to hydrogen peroxide. Post-harvest preservation. You worked hard all season long. You watered through the dry spells, you pruned through the busy weeks, you fought off disease, and finally, you picked a beautiful, heavy batch of ripe tomatoes. And then within days, they start to soften, decay, and go to waste before you can even use them all. It happens to almost every home gardener at some point, and it is one of the most frustrating experiences in all of gardening. Studies published in peer-reviewed food science journals found that post-harvest application of hydrogen peroxide on tomato fruits significantly reduce weight loss and disease incidence during storage compared to completely untreated fruits stored under the same conditions. And one of the most important details in that research is the reason it works so safely and so cleanly. Hydrogen peroxide breaks down into nothing but water and oxygen, meaning there is absolutely zero toxic residue left on the fruit surface afterward. No chemical aftertaste. No harmful coating. No concerns about what you are putting into your body or your family's food. Just cleaner, firmer, longer-lasting tomatoes sitting on your kitchen counter, or in your cool storage space, ready when you need them. And the same post-harvest preservation research extended beyond tomatoes to strawberries, red bell peppers, and cucumbers, all showing that properly diluted hydrogen peroxide treatments maintain fruit firmness, dramatically reduced microbial contamination on the surface, and extended shelf life without causing any measurable damage to the color, texture, or flavor of the produce. For home gardeners across the UK and the United States who regularly grow more than they can immediately consume, this is a genuinely practical, completely natural, and scientifically validated solution to one of the most frustrating and wasteful parts of having a productive garden, keeping that hard-earned harvest usable, beautiful, and safe for as long as possible after picking. Now, before we wrap everything up, there is one critically important thing that must be said clearly and responsibly, because hydrogen peroxide is genuinely powerful and concentration matters enormously. The research consistently points to diluted solutions, typically between 1 and 3% for most garden applications. The standard brown bottle you find at your local pharmacy in America or the UK is usually sold at 3% concentration, which means for soil drenching and foliar leaf spraying, you would dilute it further with clean water before applying it to your plants. A common starting ratio many gardeners use is 1 part 3% hydrogen peroxide to 3 parts water for general foliar application. Never apply concentrated hydrogen peroxide directly to plants or soil without proper dilution. Higher concentrations will damage plant tissue, harm the beneficial soil microbes your garden depends on, and do the exact opposite of everything we have discussed today. Start low, stay consistent across the season, and always test on a small section of your garden first before applying broadly. That responsible, measured approach is precisely what separates gardeners who see real, lasting results from those who try something once, apply it incorrectly, and give up saying it didn't work. So let's bring this completely full circle and make sure everything lands. Hydrogen peroxide oxygenates your root zone and prevents rot before it starts. It accelerates seed germination by over 70%. It suppresses both fungal and bacterial disease before damage ever occurs. It activates your tomato plant's own internal immune response and stress defense system. It improves the nutritional quality of your fruit, increasing vitamin C, polyphenol, and antioxidant potential measurably at harvest. It supports more even and consistent fruit ripening at the molecular level. It helps your plants withstand heat stress, drought, and environmental pressure more effectively. And it extends the shelf life of your harvest naturally, safely, and with zero toxic residue. All of this from one compound, one bottle, under $2. Available at every pharmacy, grocery store, and garden center across the United States, the United Kingdom, and throughout Europe. There is genuinely no other single product in your entire garden toolkit that delivers this range of science-backed benefits at this price point. And every single claim in this video is supported by published, peer-reviewed research. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, genuinely thank you. That tells me something important about you. Tells me you are serious about your garden. Serious about growing food that is healthy, productive, and worth the effort you put in every single season. But I have to be honest with you right now before you go. If you watched this entire video, every single benefit, every piece of research, every practical tip, and you still leave without subscribing to Evergreen Garden Life, then everything you just learned has a very real chance of being forgotten. No notifications. No reminders. No next video to build on what you learned today. The algorithm moves fast, and channels like this one get buried quickly for people who don't subscribe. And the next time your tomato crop struggles, the next time disease sweeps through, the next time your seeds fail to germinate, the next time your harvest rots faster than you can use it, you will think back to this video. And you will feel exactly what you felt at the very beginning of it. That sting of knowing the answer was right there, and you walked away from it. Don't let that happen. Subscribe right now. Hit that notification bell. Share this video with every gardener you know who deserves to have this information. And we will see you in the very next one, where it only gets better from here.